Pokemon Black and White has been declared by most fans as one of the worst series in the entire Pokemon franchise. But why? Why was this series so hated, and was it really all that bad all these years later? When I was younger, I remember watching Black and White all the time, and back then I was no expert in the Pokemon anime lore, so to me, Black and White felt pretty normal for a Pokemon series. I was only really watching the series episodically, and I didn't even watch the whole show, so I don't have much experience in rating the actual series. Which is why I decided to revisit the Unova region in 2024 and watch it from the beginning to give you a proper review on the show. I was already pretty aware at this point of the majority of the reasons for why the series failed to meet the expectations of the Pokemon community, and the real reason I think everyone disliked the Black and White anime was because Pokemon wanted to reboot Ash's character so that they weren't repeating the same old formula again and again. This formula is what I would call Ash being so good that the writers have no choice but to make him win the league, which would mean Ash's character development would pretty much reach its fullest potential. And Pokemon wants to keep using Ash since he's the main character, so I think they wanted to spice things up in the series by dumbing him down a bit. Well, I wouldn't say just a bit. They dumbed down Ash a lot in the first season. It was so bad at points, it didn't even feel like the same character. But that wasn't the only reason the series was hated on. Fans also hated on something that happened in the first episode of Black and White. Episode 1 starts off as any other ordinary Pokemon introduction, where we see Ash travel to a new region, explore new Pokemon, as well as battle his way to the Pokemon League. But when Ash arrives, he sees a dark cloud forming in the distance, and somehow Zekrom is just really excited to see Ash and greets him and Pikachu with a huge nerf. This nerf basically makes Ash lose most, if not all, his knowledge we watched him gain for the past 10 years, as well as making Pikachu's electric type moves not work since he got overcharged by the lightning bolt that came down and struck them both. I like to think of Zekrom as the writers of the Black and White series. They just show up out of nowhere to nerf Ash and Pikachu real quick, then bounce off to never be seen again. So shortly after receiving the nerfs, we are introduced to the Professor, starter Pokemon, and our new main rival, Trip. Trip is this new trainer who is starting his journey for the very first time, and the first thing he does is trash talk Ash. Like after Ash says he's from Kanto, Trip just says, "Oh, you're from the boonies," trying to say the place where Ash is from is where all the losers are from cliche. I just don't quite understand this coming from a guy who clearly has never visited the Kanto region and hasn't even started his journey yet, so why are you trash talking a guy who has a lot more experience than you? But these next few minutes will prove us all wrong, cause when Ash wants to battle Trip, Ash loses the battle to a brand new trainer with a brand new Pokemon. If you look at this from the perspective of the games, a brand new Pokemon starts off at level 5. And Pikachu, the Pokemon that Ash has been traveling and battling with for the past 10 years at this point, is probably almost like level 100, if not level 100. Granted, it's a Pikachu, but at that high of a level, losing to a level 5 starter Pokemon is just incomprehensible. The writer's excuse for Ash losing to Trip here is that Pikachu can't use his electric type moves because Zekrom, the legendary Pokemon, zapped him so hard, Pikachu has been overcharged by electricity and is physically unable to use them. And so after rewatching this episode, I can sort of understand that maybe Pikachu was thrown off guard by the fact that he can't use his electric type moves, and it could possibly have been Pikachu's bad day, because, you know, we all have bad days, right? Do I think Pikachu should have gotten knocked out by a brand new Snivy in only a few moves? No, but I can say that Pikachu isn't exactly the toughest Pokemon either. Pikachu can tank hits, but sometimes Pikachu gets knocked out really easily. After all, it's only a Pikachu. This doesn't justify Trip winning though, but I think people kind of overhate this battle, although I understand it's really stupid, and trust me, I was pissed when I rewatched it. But I'm going to justify it by Pikachu being thrown off guard after getting shocked by Zekrom, and that gave Trip the ability to squeeze off the win. So I guess for me that kind of made it more bearable to watch. I was really thinking this was going to be the end of Pikachu sucking, but unfortunately Pikachu was straight up trash for a good portion of the first season. I mean, it lost battles to Pokemon it should have easily taken down, because we fans know Pikachu's capabilities, and there isn't the excuse of not being able to use his electric type attacks because he was fully recovered after the Trip battle. So yeah, the series was not off to a good start, putting a very bad taste into longtime viewers' mouths, including myself, but sadly the hate for the series doesn't stop here. Not even close. The other common issue many people have about the Black and White series is the female companion Iris. The hate I hear mostly comes from her famous line, "You're such a kid." Iris would often say this after Ash made a mistake, but it makes no sense coming from someone who's also the same age as him. And the fact she constantly said this, mostly at the beginning of the series, led many to believe Iris's character was just a more annoying Misty clone. And I say Misty clone because, like Misty, she's also a gym leader in the games and also talks down to Ash in a similar fashion to when Misty would talk down to Ash. But I actually didn't mind Iris calling him a kid. I thought it was kind of funny, and it was just dumb how dumb it was. And Iris's character growth in the series is actually not that bad, especially when you couple that with how they continued Iris's growth in Pokemon Journeys when she becomes a champion like in the games. It also just makes for a good character arc altogether. One of the last yet most important things people hate Black and White for was the Pokemon League, which everyone points their fingers to this one battle in particular, Ash versus Cameron. You see, Cameron is this very clumsy kid who barely even got into the league because he didn't register in time. But Ash convinced Nurse Joy just in time to let him in. Unfortunately for Ash, this kid was the reason he got bodied out of the league. To be fair, Ash in Unova was nowhere near capable to beat the whole league, but how the writers decided Ash was going to lose this league was in a very infuriating, frustrating, annoying way, to say the least. Why? Well, you see, this kid Cameron during the battle with Ash seemed fine up until he got to his final Pokemon, Riolu. It wasn't Riolu that was the problem though, it was the fact that this kid only brought 5 Pokemon to a battle in a 6v6 battle. And the reason this triggered everyone was because Ash wound up losing to this very kid, and that's what really stings us fans, since instead of doing a fair battle, Pokemon gave Ash the advantage by making the other guy dumb just to embarrass Ash even more than they already have in the series by making him lose to a person who Ash had a clear advantage over. To this, I would also disagree to most of the fan base because while yes, it's beyond dumb making Ash lose to this guy, I would have been fine with the way he lost had it not been for Riolu/Lucario, who somehow tanked like 6 direct hits as Riolu and didn't get knocked out. Then once it evolved mid-battle into Lucario, survived another 6 direct hits and managed to take down Ash's remaining 3 Pokemon, including Pikachu. I mean, I could care less about the 5 Pokemon he brought. How the heck did this Riolu/Lucario defeat 3 of Ash's Pokemon while tanking like 20 hits? But the Cameron battle I did enjoy, and the league was honestly solid, had it not been for the trip battle. The trip battle was honestly the dumbest thing I have ever seen Pokemon do. Basically, there was an expedition match to start off the league, and this is done to eliminate competitors fast by only using 1 Pokemon. And somehow Ash and Trip were paired up first out of all the other trainers, because of course they were, you know. Not only does this mean they can't showcase Ash versus Trip in a full battle, but it also means that one of them has to leave right away. And I'm gonna be honest, Trip was like the whole hype of the league for me. I was very excited to see them battle head on, but nope, they're restricted to using only 1 Pokemon. And even though Trip basically bodied Ash for the entire battle, somehow Pikachu with 1 combo move pretty much one-shots Trip superior, and the battle was over, like in a second after Pikachu just one-shot him. Then we never see Trip again. Like, it was just so dumb. The crazy thing was Trip actually had potential. Yeah, he might have been a knockoff Paul, but he's still a lot more interesting than most of the other rivals in Unova. If Trip and Ash didn't battle each other first, then I would have not minded the Unova League at all. But this battle in particular brought it down for me. Although, like I said, the league wasn't all that bad. It wouldn't be my favorite, of course, but the pacing throughout the league was actually really good. The only episode I can recall not liking was when Axew got lost. Other than that, it was all action. So, you know, I defended the Trip battle. I partially defended Ash being dumb, although I completely agree Ash being dumb was really stupid. I defended Iris, and I also defended to an extent the Unova League as well, which does that mean I like the Black and White anime? Contrary to popular belief, upon my rewatch of the series, I actually like the Black and White anime. First off, what a lot of people don't give this anime credit for is the incredible pacing it had. I mean, every episode from at least the first season of Black and White had at least 1 major or minor event happening. Even if the episode was quote-unquote filler, something would happen like a Pokemon evolving or learning a new move, Ash catching a new Pokemon, or being introduced to a new character. Compare that to like any other series, it takes at least half the amount of time to just do that. Unova, right off the bat, in the first 10 episodes, had Ash catching a bunch of Pokemon, battling his first gym, meeting the main rival, and all his traveling companions. I will admit, the filler later on in the series can be a bit hard to get through, but the start was really well done, and it wouldn't have been done without all the Pokemon Ash caught. And I love the Pokemon he caught as well. While they may not have been the strongest Pokemon he's got, Each one had a very enjoyable personality. My favorites being Oshawott, who's the funny one, Snivy, the sassy smug one, Pignite, the passionate one, Crocodile, the cool powerful one, and Leavanny, the friendly loving one. I know not everyone will agree on me with this, because when Ash catches tons of Pokemon, it means screen time for each of them will be a lot harder. And that will also mean that their power level won't be as good as, let's say, Ash's Kalos or Alola or Journey's group, since he only caught like 5 Pokemon there, and their screen time could be divided a lot equalier. But I do prefer the style of Ash catching more Pokemon like they did in Black and White, because it's very refreshing to see, and that's probably one of my favorite things about the series. Pokemon Black and White was a breath of fresh air. Yes, does it mirror a lot of the original series with the companions both being gym leaders and Ash catching more than 6 Pokemon? Sure, but it does it in its own unique, refreshing way. Ash being nerfed is maybe not the smartest decision, but it did make him all the more able to be transformed to an even better battler than he was before. I mean, think about it. He was amazing in the Kalos series. Had it not been for Unova, do you really think that Ash would be that good in the Kalos region? And it was pretty cool to see, like, Ash and Unova relied a lot on being his overconfident self, and then he lost a lot, and that made it so he actually had to plan out things, which is why in XY I feel like he was really good all of a sudden, because he actually had strategies that he implemented instead of relying on being overconfident. There's also a bit of the surprise element. Since Ash is really dumb, you can never really predict whether or not he would win or lose against any trainer, and that could be both a good thing and a bad thing, but you can't lie, it does make the series at the very least more exciting and interesting to watch. And I mean, now that I think of it, without Unova, Kalos probably wouldn't have been that good, because imagine if Pokemon didn't reset Ash, and Ash was just as good as the end of the Sinnoh League. He would have just steamrolled the entire Unova region had he kept on going where he had left off, and it wouldn't have been as interesting of a story. The reset made it so that Ash can become really powerful in the Kalos region, Alola region, and eventually leading to the World Coronation series and Journeys. Although my biggest complaint is that the writers decided to make Ash losing in the most embarrassing ways possible. The worst of the worst is that gym battle where Ash only brought Palpitoad because he was apparently so confident that he can defeat all the electric type Pokemon with just Palpitoad, since it's a ground type who is immune to electric type attacks. Sadly though, this is of course not true since it's the anime, and that's just not how things work here.
Molga's the winner! You can't be serious! I was gonna win every battle with you!
And I just couldn't help but cringe at those moments. So yeah, I understand why people get so mad at the series, but besides that, Antrip being wasted potential and the non-traveling companions being kinda meh, just made for an okay series. I think had they done an actual Team Rocket versus Team Plasma arc like I thought they were gonna do, this would hands down have been one of my favorite series had they have pulled that off right. But instead they just focus on Team Plasma mind controlling Pokemon to take control of the Unova region. Like, man, that was such wasted potential. They could have had this whole evil organization battle war, and yeah, it just missed potential, missed opportunity right there. Black and White wasn't my least favorite series that would go to probably like Hoenn or Journeys, but it's also not my favorite. It's just kind of meh. There weren't a lot of high highs, and while yes, there were some lows, I was ultimately able to watch through them and found that I really did like watching the series. It flowed very well together, and the atmosphere and pacing was really good, which made the rewatch great for me. Also, for viewers who are not too familiar with Ash's past Pokemon series and don't really have interest in watching the 600 to 700 episodes to catch up, Black and White is the perfect place to start off, and is what I would consider the start of the modern era of the Pokemon anime. And if you guys got up till this point in this video, thank you all so much, and subscribe to my channel if you have not already. Thank you, and see you later. Bye bye.